we got to be careful what we see and what we hear and what we believe. And unfortunately, people are jumping on this bus like freaking fire ants on a ripe apple. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. And I don't hate or dislike anybody. And I know you feel the same. And which brings up another point. I'm a believer that I've never believed in the white supremacy thing when it comes to we have a leg up. I hate this critical race theory right now that they're throwing out there. And with that, by me saying that, I'm sure there's a partner already like, oh, we got to get rid of Waddell. He's racist. You know, I've heard people say, I've got buddies that have said, man, is Nuge racist? I read this column in Rolling Stones, or I'm like, man, who in the hell gave them authority to be the writer of some fictional bullcrap that regards Ted Nugent? Who gave them authority? Who is this guy that wrote that? This is Ted Nugent you're talking about. So what would you say to somebody who says, and to be honest with you, when you answer this, it's going to answer it for myself too, I'm sure, but what would you say to somebody that says Ted Nugent's a racist? And if you don't believe in whites in this, you know, being supreme because you're white or this critical race theory, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I'm on record. Like I said, I've done more interviews than maybe anybody ever. I've started out in the mid 60s doing interviews with rock and roll publications and media. And guess what I've promoted every night of 6,755 concerts? Our black heroes. Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert King, Robert Johnson, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Mose
The Goats, no doubt.
Yep. Brown, Wilson Pickett, Motown Funk Brothers. I had a tour called Black Power one year that Geraldo and Juan Williams of Fox tried to corner me because it was racist. I went, you're kidding me, right? So you how inept and how foolish must you be to jump to that nasty conclusion when we put out a press release paying homage and reverence for the founding fathers of all the greatest music in the world. There's never been a white influence, never been a musical white influence. You can go to the silver-wigged, ruffle-shirted Beethoven and Bach and those guys, which is wonderful stuff. But when it comes to moving, emotional, authoritative, defiant, the spirit of man is one of defiance. Defiance against slavery, defiance against tyranny, defiance against emperors, defiance against kings. Defiance is beautiful. We'd be nowhere without defiance. And I've attributed my musical prowess to being brought up in Detroit, now the Motown Funk Brothers and little Stevie Wonder and the Four Tops. No one has thanked black artists. In fact, Michael, I'll tell you something outrageous. All people combined have not promoted black artists as much as Ted Nugent has my whole life.
I agree.
My bass player at the time was Johnny Gunnell. He's a black dude. My bass player after Johnny was Marco Mendoza. He was born in Mexico. I am on record thousands of times. Color doesn't matter.
Amen.
Spirit, punctuality, work ethic, talents, dedication. If you want to be a bass player in Ted Nugent's band, you just have to be the best bass player in the world. I am color blind. So how does the left and how do the America haters think they win every argument? Candace Owens, my hero, was called a white supremacist.
Yes, I saw that.
My hero, Colonel Allen West, who happened to be a black guy, was considered a white supremacist. I gotta tell you, when I was born in 1948, was there racism? Sure, Jim Crow was still going on. I mean, when I went to Detroit parks, and it didn't register at the time because there was no racism in my home. I mean, it was about dedication and content of character. We had black friends. I was in Detroit, black people all the time, and never gave them a second thought. They were black, I'm white, this guy looks like he's Asian. Who cares? Have you ever met anybody that cares? I don't care. If you want to be a fireman, you got to grab that hose, climb that ladder, and put out the flames. I don't care. Nothing else matters. I don't care if you're gender confused. I don't care if you're transitioning. I don't care if you're from the Congo or if you're an albino like Johnny Winters. Just get the hose up the ladder and put out the fire. So
Amen.
that is the cheapest, the most dishonest, and the most meaningless accusation that has ever existed in this day and age is one of racism. Because if you really examine those who call us racists, look closely. Those are the racists. They always reference color. They always reference color. I've never read. No, I have to admit, I have referenced color because when I played with the Motown Orchestra at Cobo Hall in 1963, it was obviously that only those black guys could play like that. Brown, only James Brown can do that stuff. I mean, Wayne Cochran did close, and Mitch Ryder was close, but watch James Brown on the Tammy Show, 1964.
Oh, God.
And are you going to, am I racist for saying, I think there's a black thing going on here? And it is definitive soulfulness because they came out of slavery and they had to break the chains. Freedom, free at last. There's a unique celebration that you and I will never be able to have because we were never slaves. And of course, nobody nowadays is slaves either. But those first founding fathers of authoritative music, they came from the worst heartbreak and cruelty of mankind.
Yeah.
Ownership. A man thinks you own me and I have to live with this or you might hang me. You and I can only verbalize this, but we'll never grasp what that terror might be like. But those musicians did. B.B. King did. Howlin' Wolf did. Muddy Waters did. Albert Johnson. These guys, James Brown did. They knew it, so their expression was so defiant that it struck a chord with all of mankind that you have to be defiant of emperors, kings, slave drivers, and tyrants, and people that think they can tell you when, if, or where you can throw corn. And it really does go to that. In Illinois DNR or Michigan DNR or New York can tell an American you can't throw corn? Who the hell do you think you are? Where do you think you've got that authority to arrest an Illinois farmer for putting out a mineral lick on his own farm? Who are you? You shut the up. You have no authority over that man.
Right.
So you can edit however you see fit. But that's the battle cry that I got from those black artists. And to think I'm a racist is the dumbest thing anybody can possibly ever say, and I laugh hysterically every time they say it.
Same with me, and that's why I wanted to ask that question, because sometimes, controversial topics people will shy away from, and I don't ever want to do this on this podcast, and I'm fine with tackling those tough conversations, especially when because the truth, it gets back to the hunting and fishing narrative. Is people are so nervous. I remember even executives, there was opportunities from time to time about maybe we could get a spokesperson to be in the hunting industry, be on Fox, maybe even CNN. Well, I was never terrified from it. You were never terrified from it. But our industry would be, oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, Waddell might be, or, they're going to ask him something about racism. They're going to ask him something about politics. For me, it's all logic. And when you learn to work and you learn to appreciate everybody and you don't see color, that right there goes against today's narrative of this socialist communist situation, because you can't control. If somebody becomes a victim of something, it would have been easy for me to be a victim. It would be easy for you to be a victim. It's easy for a lot of people that's got it bad, or maybe they are hooked on drugs. Maybe they do have a problem or whatever it might be, or a vice. Maybe they never had money and they don't know how to get out. But once you realize and you give up, you are dead.